right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Fish Hatchery Road public meeting, the 2021 construction kickoff meeting. This is our fifth public meeting. We're here tonight to really just kind of give you an overview of what we saw last year and what you can look forward to coming up this construction season. So with that, we'll have some introductions. Jesse, our lead engineer on this, will go over kind of the project details, and then we'll have Cindy kind of cover the outreach and resources, and then we'll kick off a Q&A. You can voice your questions. We'll just kind of go, because we don't have the chat functionality enabled tonight. We'll kind of just please hold your questions during the presentation, and then we'll just kind of get those answered at the end. We will be posting all this content to the website. We will put that in the chat box below, or I'll ask Scott to do it. And so this information will be available later, and we'll have all our contact information. If you have any follow-up questions, feel free. Don't feel like you have to ask them today. We're definitely available. You want to do the next slide? Yeah. And so with that, here's the project team. This is a partnership just like it was last year between the city, the county. We have Cindy with Economic Development Partners, and we have Jesse as the project lead on the consultant side with KL Engineering. And of course, Integrity, our contractor, doing an awesome work both last year and this year. And with that, I'd like to kind of hand it over to Jesse to dive into some of the project details.
Sure. So just to kind of piggyback on what Andrew's been saying is, this is year 2, so a lot of the same players are all involved, which helps with continuity, with communication and outreach. I know Andrew talked about the website, so we do have some of those resources already out there because we did have a lot of the staging and some of those project minutia and resources already up on the web. So if any of you were engaged last year in following this project, those same resources are still up there. So just a couple other housekeeping notes, but yeah, let's dive into some of the project details. I'm Jesse Schreiner. I was the project leader for last year's segment, and we'll be staying on board and working with this great team again and looking to complete the southern and second year here. So with that here, if you can see on the right-hand side, there's a graphic that shows the overall corridor. Again, just kind of a little history. Outreach and design started back in 18 and 19. Last year, then in 2020, we reconstructed the segment of Fish Hatch north of Traceway Drive. And this upcoming season, we're looking to reconstruct the segment north of Traceway Drive. And we're also going to have a few items to clean up here, finish up that are north of Traceway Drive, and we'll dive into those. So just before we look forward, also want to take a second to talk about some of the 2020 successes. We added Ochala Drive and Bowman Drive, also had several new developments along the corridor. So if you kind of look here on the pictures on the right-hand side, we have in the upper right-hand corner, we have Fish Hatchery Road and Traceway. To the east extension of Traceway, if you will, is what Bowman Drive is. And you can see the new Highline senior living or senior apartment complex. And then on the left-hand side is the new Krupp development. So a couple brand new projects in that corridor. In the middle of the page here, we have Fish Hatchery Road and Ochala, located midway between Post and Greenway Cross. And you can see the new UW Credit Union building on the left-hand side there, the new detention pond kind of in the background. And then behind that, there's early communication and talks of potentially extending Ochala Drive to Index, and then potentially even developing that kind of brown area, that green space right now where the old tree and Bowman Farm was. And then on the bottom right-hand side, bottom right-hand corner, we have Greenway Cross and Bryant Road, where we installed a roundabout to help kind of improve the access in that area. You can kind of see, I know it's a little hard, but the existing Park Bank branch office is being reconstructed there. You can see the steel framework being erected. So just highlight a couple of the developments along the corridor, and it's awesome to see because all of this is within the city's TIF district. So already seeing a return on some of the city's investment is awesome and exciting to see, to see where it goes, you know. Okay, so let's talk about 2021, what's coming up. So big picture here with this exhibit, you know, last year we had a couple major phases. We reconstruct the blue and the yellow. We reconstructed northbound and southbound, and we're following a similar pattern this year in the orange and the green. I do have a couple extra bullet points here where we're going to do some temporary accommodations, and then we'll construct the orange in the northbound, and then we're going to construct the southbound, and then we'll wrap things up by buttoning up any median or loose ends. And we'll dive deeper into that, but just kind of that 30,000 foot view of what we have going on. So what to expect in 2021, as we noted, we did reconstruct the segment north of Traceway, but we do have some lingering items that we do have to button up, and those include installing the permanent traffic signals and lighting. I'm sure some of you, if you drive the corridor, have noticed still the temporary lights spanning across Post Road and Greenway Cross. So we're on turning the corner. Those permanent installations should be being installed here. We have the message boards out right now noting some construction starting on Monday. So we're looking, and that's the permanent signals getting fired up here. We also have some decorative landscaping. We have to finish the retaining walls, and then a variety of just miscellaneous little items that we'll be buttoning out. And then all of this, just wanted to note that any lane closures or restrictions will be during off-peak hours, so they'll only be from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Looking towards the 2020 kind of full reconstruct south of Traceway. I know it was a pretty big graphic, so I tried to span out. So if anyone has any specific questions or wants us to dive into, you know, a specific area, I've got this graphic that we can dive in. But for conversation right now, I'm going to use this and just kind of starting at McKee on the left-hand side of the page. You can see it occupies the majority of the current footprint. And the eastbound lanes will absorb a little bit of that green space that's out in front of Walgreens. We're also going to add a new bus stop and shelter on the north side there, close to the Cap City Trail. Focusing then kind of more on the Fish Hatchery Road corridor. Overall, the road's it's going to have a similar feel and look profile to the existing route. However, there are some added revisions brought into this, such as south of McKee for northbound traffic. You can kind of see that there's now going to be 2 left turn lanes to turn west onto McKee Road. So adding some capacity in that regard. Then in addition to that, the existing bus lane starts at Breckenridge. We're going to pull that south to McKee. So then any bus that's turning from McKee on to Fish Hatchery Road northbound will have its own dedicated bus lane. And then just a reminder, you know, all of this is part of Fish Hatchery Road likely being brought into the bus rapid transit, the BRT that the MPO is developing. So this corridor is a part of that, or at least being discussed as part of that right now. Working our way north at Cahill, Maine, for southbound, that's gonna remain a right in and right out. We upgrade some of the pedestrian pavement markings because we know Glacier Valley with the connection there to the bike trail and stuff that people use that area. Again, we'll still have that Cap City Trail overpass, but just to note that. Continuing north at Caddis, that remains signalized even during construction. It's slightly widened, but for the most part, it occupies the same footprint. We just kind of redefine that space. So now we're going to have 2 designated left turn lanes to head north and have a third kind of through/right lane. Then High Ridge, similar to Cahill, remains a right in, right out facility. And then you can't really see it from here, but we will be installing some green epoxy along that west side bike path. So at all the crosswalks, you'll have that kind of green friction bike path or bike epoxy being installed to help kind of delineate that bike route. So that's the final product. I'm going to dive now into how the heck we're going to build this. So dive into some of these stages. Starting with the temporary accommodations. So we do have some work going on at Greenway Cross next week, and then the following week we'll continue on 2020 work, but with this segment, March 15th, we're looking at starting some temp widening at McKee and some operations with signals down there. We'll also be doing some removals along the Fish Hatchery Road in that entire corridor south of Traceway, doing some median prep work at Caddis and High Ridge. And again, all these lane restrictions will occur outside of the peak rush hour windows. So once we get some of these temporary accommodations, once we get these complete, sorry, my mouse is jumping around on me. And by mid-April, we anticipate then, weather dependent. Spring is always kind of a gray area on trying to define a schedule. So you'll have to work with us, but I would anticipate then by mid-April, through kind of July is what we're anticipating. We will shift traffic over to the existing southbound lanes while we construct the northbound lanes. So if you look in the bottom right-hand corner there's a typical section to kind of help show how that configuration looks. So you can see kind of on the right-hand side is our work zone. We'll be reconstructing the northbound lanes while northbound and southbound occupy the existing southbound lanes. And note that similar to what we had in 2020, you'll have one through lane with a designated left turn lane at all the intersections. Then kind of diving closer in, here's McKee. Will remain one left turn lane on the Fish Hatchery Road. So that's a reduction, remain signalized. And then on Fish Hatchery Road, southbound, you can see is shifted to the southbound. Well, all the traffic, is shifted to the southbound lanes. And you can kind of see where they're starting to use some of those temporary accommodations that are highlighted in red. And then I'm gonna second here just to get my mouse, okay. And then shifting north to Glacier Valley. Glacier Valley will remain open during the school year, and any closure is coordinated with the DNR driveway. So one of those two access points is always gonna be open. And I think it fits in. I don't anticipate us getting in there probably till, like we said, the school year, which actually works well with the schedule. So sometime in July, I'm guessing we're going to be closing down Glacier Valley. But again, there's always the south entrances beyond our south limits, so that'll always be open. Continuing north at Caddis, that will remain signalized throughout the project. Again, the DNR driveway and Glacier Valley closures are sequenced. And then you start seeing, similar to what we did last year, then the northbound bus stops, we create a temporary accommodation, and those are shifted to the existing median, which would be, once traffic's all shifted over, would be on the right-hand side. So all the bus stops are maintained at Caddis and High Ridge. And also want to note then at Breckenridge, since we're talking about the east side, that access or driveway entrance will be built in halves, so that will maintain access throughout. I'm sure the contractor is going to call and talk with the owner to see what kind of requirements or coordination we can do to expedite any of the work in that area. But again, that'll be kind of on a one-on-one basis. Again, northbound bus stops are relocated. and the pedestrians continue to use the west side, so that existing west path. Continuing north, then you'll see where we shift traffic back over, which the crossover, it's all south of the Traceway intersection. So from Traceway going north, then everybody's back to their normal route and configuration. And that is an overview for constructing the northbound lanes. Then once that is complete, we will shift traffic. If you can see over to our new, in the bottom right, we have that typical section again, where we, the typical section where our traffic is shifted over to the new northbound lanes while we construct the southbound. Anticipate this being sometime in July through early fall, likely October-ish. Bear with me here while I'm just trying to get these in scope. So zooming in on McKee Road, starting at the south end. McKee traffic stays kind of where it is on the north half while we construct the southern half. Maintain pedestrian or temporary pedestrian access and access to the Cap City Trail overpass. And then once we get that south half completed, we'll shift traffic over to the south half of McKee while we reconstruct the north half. Again, access to the overpass, that'll be kind of, you can see at the bottom of the page via the east side, Walker East path. Working our way north. Cahill, so I know we're zoomed in, but this, on Cahill here, but Cahill and High Ridge, their construction enclosures are sequenced. So we can only close one of those intersections at a time. So that one of those, along with Caddis, will always be open. So you'll always have two access points to all the businesses and residents west of Fish Hatchery Road. And then here you can kind of see, I know this is zoomed in, is High Ridge and Caddis. So then with Caddis, that's going to be built in halves. So it's signalized, and this is going to be your focus point where you're going to be able to turn north. And that's what it is right now. So we'll maintain that through the construction. And then in addition, this work at Caddis cannot happen while any work is going on at High Ridge or Cahill. So again, as we were talking about, you're going to have two access points. Caddis will remain as is until High Ridge and Cahill are complete, and then the contractor will focus in on Caddis and build that half at a time. So in addition, while they're working on Caddis, which is open, you should have both High Ridge and Cahill available. And then High Ridge I showed, okay. And then continuing north here, you can see Traceway and just showing the crossover there. So south, this is where southbound will come through the intersection and then cross over to the new northbound to the east side of the road and continue south. Okay. And then finally, once we are able to complete kind of those main stages, the northbound and the southbound, we'll put traffic back to their final configuration, and we'll go back to those daily closures between 9 and 3 when we'll be buttoning up median and kind of some of those loose ends. And then I also want to note here, again, this is a 30,000 foot view. Similar to last year, we'll have a designated or signed bike route or bike detour route. Starts south of Brendan near the Mickelson Parkway, and it will use a mixture of path and on-road facilities up to Cannonball Trail and Post Road, where then you'll head back towards Fish Hatchery Road and be able to join there. As kind of noted with the bike path detour, we also have the same alternate route signed using Highway 18 and 151, as well as Highway 14 for traffic. We created a mitigation plan that can be referenced or resourced as needed. Again, just want to highlight that 2 of the 3 intersections will always be open. Metro comes to our weekly meetings, and we're in constant contact with Tim and that team. And we have a project website, as I noted when we started, and a lot of these resources, as well as the existing ones, are out there. And we have the same business liaison, Cindy, who here I'm going to hand the baton over to, and is going to talk a little bit more about stakeholder outreach. So with that, Cindy. If you're there and you're on mute.
Sorry about that, everyone. I'm mute here. This is Cindy Yagi, and I'm the Business Outreach Manager. I have been on the project last year and will continue with the project this year as well. And I think it really bodes very well for the city of Fitchburg in the respect that they've put resources toward helping the businesses get through the road construction. So a little bit of what I do through this position is to work with all the businesses that will be affected by the Fish Hatchery Road construction. So of course, last year we worked with the businesses that were impacted then, and this year we'll continue with that. And what I mean by that is that literally I'm the liaison person with Jesse from the construction team and Andrew from the city, and work with the businesses on whatever is impacting them. So I know last year we had things like, Wi-Fi cables being cut over and over again. We had access issues. We had, sidewalks in front of businesses that were impacted. And so my job is really to be there, just a phone call away for the businesses, to be able to triage whatever's going on and then get it directed to whichever entity can help us with resolving those issues. And generally, we're resolving those issues within 24 hours, 24 to 48 hours. So the business gets pretty immediate resolution to whatever they're dealing with. I do provide weekly e-blasts or outreach based on what's going on with the road construction team, as far as what's going to be going on the next week for staging and schedules and lane closures, if we have any of those going on, alternate routes and detours, traffic switches and shifts, and pedestrian, bike, bus connections, things like that as well. And then I encourage the businesses then to get that out, all that information out to their employees, to their vendors, to their those that they're working with their own businesses. In addition to that, we do work on some targeted advocacy for the businesses. So if they need a liaison with the city or with the project team, I can help be that liaison person for them as well. We do a lot in the area of education and communication. As far as education, a lot of it revolves around signage. During road construction, there's always a real strong need for temporary and permanent signage. And a lot of times the businesses need to know what the signage ordinances are. And we do a lot of work around that issue and that topic. And then we can help the businesses with marketing and promotions for their businesses during this period of time. Trying to keep the customers patronizing their businesses and not avoiding the area. And we do a lot in that area as well too. So I'll take the next slide. Want to remind everybody that there are substantial community resources that are available during this period of time to the businesses, the residents, everybody impacted. Obviously, we have very capable city staff with Andrew McFadden and Bill Balke as our transportation engineers working with us on the project. You know that I'm the business outreach manager. You've heard from Jesse as the Fish Hatchery Road project leader, very capable, worked with us last year and did a great job. We also have neighborhood navigators who are our interface with the residents and a lot of the apartment buildings, making sure that the information gets to those residents that need that information as well, that are going to be impacted. And we have a very close relationship with our Fitchburg Chamber and Visitor Bureau as well. They're very supportive of the businesses, and a lot of times we are working in synergy with them as well. Jesse already talked about the information being up on our project website. The city has a project website. We'll be making sure that this presentation will be up there, but we'll also put all the other renderings and you know, different information up there, make sure that that's up there on a regular basis. Want to encourage anybody who does want to make sure that they're getting the weekly updates and the e-blasts and the invitation to public meetings and things like that to register on Notify Me so that they can get that information. And then we're very active on Facebook and Twitter. We have the Fitchburg Transportation Project Facebook page, and that's kept up to date and very relevant on a daily basis for sure. We do handle any questions that come in through there. Generally, we're handling those within, you know, half hour, you know, so it's really quick turnaround time as well. And then we can't forget our amazing partners at Fact TV that help get, as they're doing today, get all the relevant information out there, help to get us all this information promoted and communicated. So thank you, Fact TV, for all that you do for this project and for the city. And then finally, don't forget that we have our city alders out there, city mayor, and if there's anything that, you know, needs to be taken to their attention, feel free to contact them as well too, and then we'll resolve it, you know, with them as well too, if there's something that needs to be resolved that way. Okay, next. Okay, I think this slide is just a reminder to the businesses as they prepare for road construction in their area. It is important for all businesses to get involved early and often, and we continue to keep saying that, and it rings true, so that you stay informed and prepared. We find that the businesses that are staying informed and are keeping up to date on the information we're providing are better prepared. They can communicate that out to their customers and employees and suppliers and vendors. And they seem to fare through the road construction much more successfully and keep their business thriving during the road construction. As I mentioned, temporary and permanent signage is always an issue during road construction. So I encourage any business that, you know, if you have questions about signage, have a need for additional signage, feel free to give me a call. I've got tons of resources in that area, and also I can bring you up to speed on the signage ordinances as well and how they affect your businesses. We also find that businesses seem to be more successful too when they think about partnering with some of the other businesses in their area and maybe hosting events or promotions or marketing, you know, to encourage again customers to patronize their businesses and come on in there and not avoid the area. So with, you know, especially with everything that we've gone through with COVID and people, you know, not being able to patronize some of the businesses, and with, you know, all the, the closures and protocols we've been following, hopefully this summer we'll be opening back up again, and we can start hosting more of those type of events and get people back out to the businesses. So we also find that it's very important for everyone to stay positive. And what I mean by that is that I think the messaging here too is that, half of the Fish Hatchery Road project was successfully completed last year. It went very, very well. This year, it looks like we're going to start maybe 2 weeks early. And, and we'll be completing this project this year. So again, for the businesses, it's a temporary situation. We have to get through it this year, but, by October, November, this should all be behind us. So. And during road construction is an important time for businesses to think about increasing their marketing and promotions versus, being status quo or decreasing them. This is not the time to cut your marketing budgets and promotions. This is the time to really put some money behind that and again, create events, promotions, things like that to get people into your businesses. And then we want to encourage all of you to keep my phone number handy, and we'll give you that on the next slide. And then we have all the other phone numbers here too. So again, hopefully you'll have me on speed dial anytime anything comes up with the businesses that you need resolved. Please don't be afraid to give me a phone call. It doesn't matter when it is. I answer my phone pretty much 24/7. But other ways to stay informed is to make sure that you're watching the project website. Again, that's going to be kept current with all the information. Like I said, our presentation today will be out there after this meeting. Our Facebook page, like I said, is very active, very relevant, up to date. We're going to give you information on lane closures, traffic switches, detours, alternate routes, things like that. And then we also have a very active Twitter page as well too. And then here's the information as far as emails and phone numbers for myself, Andrew, and Jesse as well. So that'll be on the website as well. So please keep those phone numbers handy and don't be afraid to call us. We're here for you anytime.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Cindy. Thanks, Jesse. With that, we definitely want to open it up for questions. Feel free to stay muted. You can use the raise hand functionality in Zoom, or you can just raise your hand in your video if your video's on. It looks like Steve, you have the first question.
Yeah, I have a couple, so may I give them all? I think that would go quicker.
Sure.
First, Ocala Drive. Back when this intersection was first designed, it was to be Pike Drive. Is the city given up extending Pike Drive through there?
That's a good question. Jesse, I don't know if you have any background.
Parts to that. You're talking, right now we're constructing to the east of Fish Hatchery Road, which is the Ocala portion and is a cul-de-sac right now. But as I would kind of talk about.
To be clear, this is about the name. Why isn't it Pike Drive?
I believe, were paying homage to the Bowman farm, some of the people that were involved with that.
Okay. You did not mention the staging or what you're going to be doing between High Ridge and Traceway. I expect retaining wall, tree removal, and the bridge completion. And I'm wondering if you could tell us about the schedule for that and whether there will be any beautification if there's tree removal. And I'll just give you the last couple of questions here. Did I understand that when you're working on the east side of the road that the Cap City Trail Bridge will be closed?
No.
Okay, that's good. When Cahill Main is closed, how will folks in Fish Hatchery area turn north? Will they have to go down to Brendan and circle around?
Everything will be Caddis. If you're looking to go northbound, Caddis would be the next closest intersection.
Oh, I misspoke. When Caddis Bend is closed.
Caddis will be constructed in halves. So
Caddis Bend will never be closed.
It will never be closed.
Okay. And the last thing is more of a remark. One of the Fitchburg vaccine distribution points and COVID testing sites is on High Ridge Trail at Cahill, Maine. And so I would just ask the city and the construction team to do everything possible to help people find that and to keep that access open. So I'm still eager to hear about what's going to happen along the Pines Apartments and with the bike ped bridge over Nine Springs Creek.
Sure, just bear with me. I know most of the plan. I don't have every detail figured out yet. So just give me a second to look this up to verify, see what we've got.
Yeah, while Jesse's doing that, thanks, Steve, for those questions. Yeah, that's a great point on the Fitchburg Family Pharmacy. We'll definitely be coordinating with them. And I know that a few businesses have already reached out about kind of this construction season. So folks are aware that we're coming south, and so that's great.
So we are not replacing in those trees along the west side. I do not see behind that retaining wall. But I do know that as part of the design, and forgive me, I wasn't the designer, but I do know that as part of the design, there was communication about the number of trees that were being removed, and in the overall context that those decorative elements were being reincorporated. Now, it doesn't look like they were in this specific area, but I do know the number of trees that were being removed were counted, and as part of that design, all of that was brought back into it.
Okay, and would this work, in particular right now, there's a sidewalk there and a very narrow one over the Nine Springs Bridge, and the path will be connected between Traceway and High Ridge Trail, replacing the sidewalk. When will that be done? Will that be done when the west side of the road is worked on, or all through the summer, or what?
Yeah, so right now what you see over there will remain because that's the west half. So we don't address that until we can get access to it without impacting traffic. So we start with the northbound lanes, reconstructing that. So anyone walking along the west side would utilize the existing infrastructure that's out there right now. And then midsummer when we switch over, that'll be one of the things. If you have driven the corridor or through the area in this winter, you'll notice that we do have the abutments. We were able to accelerate some of that construction in that area. So being offline, we were able to construct the north and south abutments. We have the bridge being fabricated, but we couldn't get it fabricated and fit in prior to what we're going to be doing this spring. But the positive here is that some of a lot of the substructure and kind of prep work for that trail will be ready to, I guess we'll be able to finish that trail right away, but we're not going to be able to open any of that anyways until that whole southbound is completed.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense.
The bridge will go in after July?
Yeah, the bridge will be installed after July, correct.
Thank you.
Awesome, thanks, Steve. All right, does anybody else have any questions? All right, hey, Rick, yeah, if you want to unmute.
Yes, I have a couple questions I'd like to ask, and I don't know who can address them, but one question I have is when this whole project started, with all the traffic that Fish Hatchery Road gets, why in its reconstruction phase is it still only 2 lanes in both directions and not 3? And then I was wondering also if the same congestion problem is going to be like it was with what was being done last year, and then my other, and then my final question was, do you see with the current timeline that that you'd run into any problem as far as traffic lights or whatever like you ran into last year, and how is that going to be addressed then if you don't get it done by October or November, being this is the last year of the project?
Great, thanks, Rick. Yeah, sounds like a three-parter. Jesse, if you want to take the first one with the 3 lanes versus 2 lanes.
Sure. So I know one of the key aspects is because, well, first off, we are expanding kind of the southern portion. So like I was talking about that bus lane, one, we pull the bus out of this area for this segment being constructed south of Traceway. So we added that 3rd lane, that designated bus lane northbound all the way to McKee. So that should help a little bit keeping the buses outside of that. Another aspect that we implemented are that, again, this is my interpretation of the design, but I do believe that one thing that's also going to help improve traffic flow is that there was a lot of cross traffic, a lot of left turns mid-block and for driveways and businesses, and that was redesigned and kind of reconfigured. So you'll notice north of Traceway, for instance, down by McDonald's and UW Credit and the gas stations, there were several locations in that area that you could make a left-hand turn, which also kind of increased the I'm drawing a blank on terminology, congestion, excuse me. So that then now has been replaced with a mid-block left turn lane. So I believe, traffic flow, once you get south of Traceway, it actually, even during the rush hour, flows pretty well because there aren't a lot of left turn options in that area. Everything is block by block. So for this segment, I guess that would be part of why this segment wasn't expanded. And then instead of widening the road because of all the private businesses, we wanted to remain within that existing right-of-way north of Traceway. And so instead of expanding, we tried to work inside that footprint, and that was more with our revisions and kind of updates to that median area. That kind of answer that first question?
Well, kind of, I guess the point I was trying to make is with all the traffic that Fish Hatchery Road has, and to my knowledge, this has been the first time in however many years that it has been under construction or whatever, or redone. And so I would just, I guess what I was looking for is if the amount of traffic was taken into consideration when they did all the planning, and that's how it got down to 2 lane or the existing 2 lanes instead of 3, because I know when they expanded Verona Road, they did that with 3 lanes, and that flows really nice now because I live in Verona, and there is nowhere near the congestion that used to be, and I was surprised with the amount of traffic that Fish Hatchery gets, that a similar model wasn't put into place with this reconstruction.
Rick, are you talking about the actual construction, the long-term final build, or are you talking about during construction?
Both, I guess.
Okay. I will say, the bus lanes, we did want to preserve that as kind of bus exclusive lanes in order to kind of facilitate smooth operations for the bus facility and long term the BRT. During construction, I can definitely let Jesse handle that, but we do want to try to make sure we're keeping as many lanes as open as possible, but we do have to construct, just from a construction standpoint, trying to make sure we can work on as much as we can at any given time.
Okay,
To piggyback on that, all traffic counts were incorporated and analyzed during the design. So yes, definitely that was a component of this design. And then you're playing a balancing act with some of the private property. You don't want to go in and take private property if not needed, if you can work within the same footprint. So looking, it's an equation and a balancing act of what are the priorities among all the stakeholders in this area. So, as part of this too, we expanded the bike path to be able to use that, provide a multi-use path, which is wider than some of the sidewalks. So again, there was several different users that were taken into the account. Traffic counts were analyzed, and that was definitely part of the discussion. And this is the final result.
okay.
And then to switch gears and talk about during construction, you're right, there is congestion. I mean, ultimately, we're taking 2 lanes and dropping them down to 1 lane. And part of that is so we can build it, because to accommodate more traffic, you have to widen and provide temporary accommodations. So again, a balancing act of how much money do you want to instill in the temporary situations that are then going to be ripped out, and how much can you get by with utilizing the existing or proposed footprint. So it's a balancing act there as well. I know there is some backups, but that's also why we went into some of those mitigation aspects of providing alternate routes, providing detours for the bike route. Again, this is a city and a local street where I know you've referenced Verona Road. Verona Road was also a state highway where they're going 60 miles an hour. And so we're hoping a lot for this. It's a lot more local users that are also able to utilize other avenues. We get there are a lot of motorists that live south of the project limits that like to use this as their to and from. So part of that is where that alternate route came in, is to use 14 and to use Fitchburg Road and to use 18151. So I agree there is going to be construction congestion. Unfortunately, it's a part of the equation, and we do the best we can. As part of the temporary signals that we do install, we install them. We also come back to the equation. We did this several times at Greenway Cross, and we try to tweak those times to maximize where the traffic is, to try to help flush that through on a daily and hourly basis. So we're trying to accommodate in real time from what we're seeing, because last year, again, COVID really changed the dynamic of what everyone anticipated. We try to bring that into and incorporate it into our work while we're out there.
Okay, well, I just know because I utilized the bank associated, and I dealt with that backup rush traffic in the construction part last year, and it just seemed like it really moved slow through there, and I don't know if it had to do with the Greenway Cross light not being long enough or what. I'm not sure, but I appreciate you saying that it was monitored and changed and all that, and then could you answer my last question about the stoplights and stuff, if that runs past October or November, what will happen?
Sure, yep. So the bright side here is it is a 2-year project. So everything, all the signals and, COVID kind of wreaked havoc on everyone's supply chains. So we were no different. But we did have everything supplied and delivered over the winter. So as part of that, all of our lighting, all of our signals for 2020 and 2021s were all delivered this year. So from a procurement and delivery standpoint, I don't see that being an issue. Weather's always going to play a factor. If, the floor drops out and we have cold temperatures, there's inherently some of the operations that we cannot complete. So again, similar to what we had in 2020, I do foresee probably coming back in next spring and having to touch up some loose ends, just because you're getting into fall and you can't guarantee everything. But will any of that really impact traffic? We'll have lanes open. If we do have to do stuff, it'll be these 9 to 3s, daily closures, off-peak hours, where it's really minimal impact to the traveling public.
And just a follow-up, how does that affect the budget for the project if you end up coming back in 2022?
I don't think that should impact. I mean, the from a contractor standpoint, the bid prices were locked in. We do budget. I mean, I don't see that.
I guess I'm just wondering if it will go over budget or something if you have to come back in the spring of 2022. I guess that's what I was wondering.
I don't see that making any wholesale changes or anything like that to the project scope or oversight. We have landscaping items that there's care cycles that extend a couple years beyond this project. So some of that's already built into the project. So again,
Okay.
I mean, I don't see, it would have to be something catastrophic to really change or throw a curveball at the project in that regard. And if that's the case, I guess no project really can anticipate that, but I don't foresee any huge wholesale issues in that regard.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much for answering my questions.
Yeah, thanks for giving us those questions, Rick. Along those lines, we did have a question come in through the chat from City Hall. The signals at Ochala Drive, when are those scheduled to be installed this year?
So just to kind of dive into the spring work, right now, starting Monday, we will be focusing in on Greenway Cross to get those permanent signals up. And then we're taking those temporary signals down to McKee. So then we'll install those signals at McKee the week of the 15th. Then once those are installed, we'll be jumping up to Post to tear down those temporary and get the permanent install. And then we're kind of leapfrogging. So then after Post Road's done, then we're going to focus on Traceway and Ochala. So I would say hopefully by the middle of April, or at least, weather again dependent, let's say worst case, but sometime in April, we should have all those 4 intersections from Traceway and to Greenway Cross should all be installed.
And real quick, Jesse, could you just kind of talk about new signals, how those go up, and kind of when those closures are usually?
Yeah. So as part of this, if you guys are familiar, we call them monotube poles or monotube arms. So it's a giant pole that's outside of the curb line that extends up and has a long mast arm that extends over the roadway. To do this, they span the entire roadway. So yes, we're going to have some night closures, probably I would say 1 night closure a week or every other week going forward. So next Thursday right now, after 8 p.m., we're going to have to close down portions of Hatchery Road, and we'll be detouring traffic to get around those areas because those monotube arms do extend over or span over the entire roadway. So for instance, if you're heading northbound to Greenway and you stop, we have a signal pole and arm that extends from that pork chop by KFC and will extend all the way over the median. So there's no real area for the traffic to get around while we're hanging that pole, and for safety and considerations, we're going to have to divert traffic. So as part of that, we're working through those details. We should have them out here by the end of the week or on Monday or what that is. But again, we're shifting that operation tonight to try to mitigate any impacts to the traveling public. So that's just one example at the intersection. We're going to have a similar situation that we're working through at Ochala, at Post, and at Traceway.
Awesome. Thanks, Jesse. I do see Joyce, you have your hand up. Would you like to share something?
Hi, this is Joyce Fry with the Economic Development Department, and I just kind of wanted to address some of Rick's questions. So, Rick, we have out on the project website the previous public information documentation along with the video from the public information meeting, and some of the questions that you asked were addressed during those meetings. So you're welcome to go back out there and take a peek at that, and it'll answer a lot of the questions you had as far as consideration of a third lane and some of the other things, because that was done quite a while ago. So
Yeah, I didn't make all the meetings, so that's why I was asking it for this meeting. So
yep, it's out there. So feel free to go and take a look at it. And there's some great resources out there that, one other thing that they studied too is the accidents, and they also considered looking at the speed limits through there too. So there were a lot of things considered when they were looking at the design and the layout of this road. But if you haven't signed up to get the information on our website, you should, because there's tons of great resources out there.
okay.
And then Rick, if we go over budget, then we'll probably just add a toll road for anybody that's coming from Verona.
Great, great. All right, well, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Joyce. And yeah, thanks. I'm relatively new to the project. Jesse, Joyce, Bill, the rest of the city staff, they have a lot of knowledge, and there's a lot of great material on the website. So yeah, please check it out based on some of those past design decisions that, I'm certainly getting up to speed with. But yeah, any other questions from the audience? We got about 3 more minutes kind of in our scheduled time, but if you have any additional questions, we're happy to answer them. Otherwise, as Jesse noted, we'll have some construction impacts coming up as soon as next week with those signals and nighttime closures. And so please check the website, sign up for Notify Me. We're sending out emails, and so look for those as we kind of ease into this construction season coming as soon as next week. With that, I don't see any other questions. I want to offer one more chance for Jesse and Cindy if you guys have any closing thoughts you kind of want to offer that I might have missed.
No, I think you've covered it. Happy construction season.
While we're here, I'll just one quick recap again. So construction starting to kick off next week, north of Traceway on the 2020 stuff that we did last year. We're looking at the week of the 15th to start doing construction, and you'll see the drums and everything south of Traceway. And then 2021 is going to extend all the way into November. So you're going to see a lot of orange probably up until Thanksgiving. So just high level kind of recap.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys. Like we mentioned, our contact information is up there. If there's any question, either from folks on the call now or folks watching this at home, please let us know. We're happy to answer them and get you up to speed. With that, we'll sign off. I wish everybody a great night.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for emceeing.